the concept of harmless avoidance. Here's the thing. Rest is good. Rest is necessary. Rest is the unsung hero behind every athlete's gold medal, every best-selling book, every suddenly glowing Instagram transformation post. But avoidance is sneakier, trickier. It wears rest clothing, borrows its cologne, and pretends it's here to help. True relaxation is plugging your brain into a charger. You power down, the battery fills, and when you come back, you're sharper, calmer, steadier. Avoidance is different. Avoidance is hitting snooze on your soul. The longer you smack that snooze button, the louder the alarm gets. And unlike your iPhone alarm, this one doesn't give up. It keeps adding anxiety until you're basically living with a marching band in your chest. Think of it this way. Hobbies can be like smoke alarms. They beep, they flash, they give you something rhythmic to focus on. But just because you muted the sound doesn't mean the fire in the kitchen stopped spreading. You just stopped hearing the warning. You've felt this before. That one email you need to send, but suddenly you care very deeply about whether your Spotify playlists should be organized by mood, year, or dominant instrument. 2023. Songs with surprisingly aggressive triangles. Or the night you swear you'll start your online course. You even light a candle to set the vibe. And somehow, you're 5 puzzles deep into a Sudoku marathon, convincing yourself numbers are brain training. Technically, this is self-improvement. Or the classic watering plants. Except, this is the 4th time today, and your monstera is basically filing for a restraining order. Somewhere between its soggy roots, it's screaming, "Please stop hydrating me and do your taxes." Psychologists call this displacement of effort. Your brain takes the energy meant for one thing, the scary, meaningful task, and reassigns it to something harmless but trivial. It feels like work. It looks like work, but it's not the right work. These aren't evil hobbies. They're not villains twirling mustaches in the corner. They're just innocent pastimes drafted into the service of avoidance. And once you see it, you realize you're not just relaxing, you're running, with a Sudoku grid for camouflage. The psychology of avoidance. So, why does our brain do this? Psychology 101. Avoidance works, at least in the short term. When you sidestep a stressful task, whether it's that unread email from your boss or the "we need to talk" text, your anxiety plummets instantly. It's like popping a mental Advil. The relief isn't imaginary, it's chemical. Your nervous system exhales. Oh, thank God, danger avoided. But here's the trap. That little hit of relief is sneaky. It teaches your brain a rule. Hey, this worked. Next time you feel stress, do this again. Avoidance gets reinforced, cemented, promoted from temporary hack to go-to strategy. Meanwhile, the thing you avoided, it doesn't just sit there politely waiting. It grows teeth. It collects late fees. It starts whispering at night like a horror movie villain. Hey, remember me? It's like muting the background music in a video game without pausing the boss fight. Sure, the tension drops for a moment. The room feels quieter. But the dragon is still circling. And now you've robbed yourself of the dramatic soundtrack that warns you when it's about to breathe fire. And because our brains are world-class lawyers, we rationalize it with what psychologists call cognitive distortion. Enter the spotlight effect. You convince yourself, well, I'm not doom-scrolling TikTok. I'm building Lego sets. That's wholesome. That's good for me. And, yes, on paper, it is good for you. Just like cake is delicious. Just like wine is heart-healthy. Just like a 3-hour nap is just resting my eyes. But here's the hard truth. Good things used badly can become bad things. Sugar is sweet in the moment, but corrosive over time. Avoidance is the same. It feels like self-care, but really, it's fear dressed in cozy clothes. The wildest part? Half the time, you know it. You can feel the guilt humming underneath while you alphabetize your spice rack. That guilt doesn't push you toward action. It pushes you further into the hobby. You're desperate to outrun the guilt, so you pour even more hours into whatever productive distraction is at hand. And the cycle spins: stress, hobby, relief, guilt, more stress. It's not that the hobby itself is evil. Lego sets don't plot against you. Sudoku isn't your enemy. Plants don't care if you water them obsessively. It's how you're using them. Like duct tape slapped over a cracked dam, it holds for a minute, but the water's still building behind it. And eventually, that pressure demands a flood. Case study 1, the collector. Their shelves aren't just shelves, they're shrines. Vinyl records lined up like soldiers, alphabetized once, re-alphabetized when they realized the Beatles technically belong under B, and then triple-checked because, God forbid, Abbey Road sits next to Aerosmith. Or maybe it's digital, thousands of photos tucked neatly into folders. Trip 2018, Day 3, Croissant number 2, Croissant number 2, better lighting. Each one cropped, tagged, and backed up 3 times, just in case the cloud betrays them. On the surface, collecting feels noble. Who doesn't admire someone with a system? A person who has both Marie Kondo's approval and alphabet stickers in bulk. But underneath, there's something more primal at work. Here's the psychology. When life feels uncertain, we crave order. Your brain wants to reassert control somewhere, anywhere. You can't control whether your boss sends that ominous "can we chat" email. You can't control whether your ex really is happier without you. You can't control the fact that time keeps marching forward like a tax auditor with a stopwatch. But you can control whether your Pokemon cards are in perfect mint condition sleeves. Psychologists call this a compensatory control strategy. Translation: when one part of your life feels wobbly, you double down on another. And collecting delivers. Every time you straighten a row of books or snap a photo of your action figure haul, your brain gets a tiny hit of dopamine, a little ding that says, "See, you're not powerless. You've got this." But here's the catch. Sometimes those shelves stop being storage and start being a fortress. It's easier to alphabetize your comic books than update your LinkedIn, easier to sort through stamps than sort through your finances, easier to recatalog your Lego pieces by vibe than open the inbox with 7 unread messages screaming at you. So the real question is, are you curating treasures or hiding behind them? Because a collection can either be a window into joy or a wall that blocks out the stuff you're afraid to face. Case study 2, the gamer grind. Picture this. You've logged 200 hours in Skyrim, not on the main quest, not even close. The world is literally ending, but you've been harvesting cabbages, rearranging your bookshelf, and making sure your digital house has the perfect cheese wheel pyramid. Or maybe you're running Crash Bandicoot time trials again. Shaving off milliseconds like the fate of the multiverse depends on it. Games give us something intoxicating, clear progress. XP bars, level ups, shiny trophies. Every task completed dings your brain like a slot machine. Well done, here's a dopamine coin. In real life, progress is a foggy swamp. Pay your bills on time, no achievement unlocked. Go to therapy, no quest complete or banner. Break up with someone toxic, no confetti cannon. That's why it's so tempting to swap the messy dragon of reality for the tidy dragons of digital worlds. In Skyrim, at least the dragons stay where you left them. Your actual life, those dragons respawn in your inbox daily. Psychologists call this achievement substitution. Basically, when the big boss feels too intimidating, your brain says, "Cool, let's farm side quests instead." And honestly, it makes sense. Beating a wolf in a forest feels good. Facing your taxes? Not so much. But here's the kicker. Avoidance is still avoidance, even when it's pixel-shaped. Grinding out side quests while ignoring your main quest doesn't make the real boss disappear. It just means you'll be underleveled when it finally shows up. So games aren't the problem. Games are brilliant. They give us control, structure, and little bursts of meaning. The problem is when they stop being a hobby and start being a hiding place. Because if you're max level in Skyrim, but still level 1 in your dental appointments, that's not progress. That's procrastination in disguise. Case study 3, the creative procrastinator. This one looks admirable, almost enviable. Their shelves are stacked with journals, sketchbooks brimming with half ideas. New projects launched every Tuesday like clockwork. From the outside, it screams ambition, passion, hustle, but peek closer. A lot of those projects stall. The painting's background is perfect, but the subject never shows up. The song has a killer chorus, but no verses. The novel, Chapter 1, is cinematic gold. Chapter 2 lives in witness protection. Why? Fear. Starting is safe. Starting is a dopamine hit. You get to live in possibility, where everything's still perfect because it hasn't risked reality yet. But finishing? Finishing invites judgment. Finishing means the world can say, not good enough. So, the creative procrastinator keeps spinning the wheel of beginnings, a fresh canvas, a shiny new notebook, a brilliant concept that conveniently avoids the terrifying middle. Psychologists call this creative avoidance. It's procrastination that cosplays as productivity. The brain says, look, I'm not dodging work, I'm an artist. But really, it's sharpening pencils instead of writing the story. It's rearranging the studio instead of making anything inside it. And here's the tricky part. Society rewards the appearance of creativity. People say, wow, you're always working on something. But what they don't see is the avoidance humming underneath. Because true creativity isn't just in the spark of an idea, it's in the slog of finishing, the messy editing, the cringe drafts, the terrifying step of saying, "Here, I made this. Judge me." So, the bravest creative act, sometimes it's not starting another project. It's finishing the one that scares you, the one that risks failure, embarrassment, or, worse, indifference. Because half-finished ideas look safe in your notebook, but finished ones, they get to live, breathe, and maybe even change someone else's life. When harmless becomes harmful. Here's where things get heavier. Most hobbies start off harmless. They're meant to be sprinkles on the cupcake of life, a dash of joy, a little side quest to balance the main storyline. Nobody ever worried about crocheting a scarf or alphabetizing a spice rack. Until, of course, the scarf pile starts looking like a wool avalanche, and your paprika is so organized it has its own LinkedIn profile. At first, it's just fun, a way to decompress, a way to feel competent in a messy world. But when hobbies slide into avoidance territory, suddenly those sprinkles are covering a moldy cake. Let's break down the costs. First cost, time. Time doesn't just disappear, it gets eaten, swallowed whole. You sit down just to check in on your Animal Crossing island, and the next time you look up, it's 4 a.m. Your villagers are thriving, but your real laundry pile has evolved into a sentient beast plotting world domination. Or maybe you're just hopping on YouTube for a quick tutorial. 3 hours later, you've watched 17 different ways to make focaccia bread, but still haven't opened the bill sitting on your counter. Second cost, unfinished growth. Here's the sneaky part. Every avoided task is a door to a new version of yourself, a version that's stronger, braver, more capable. But every time you dodge, that door stays locked. Future you is basically stuck in a waiting room with outdated magazines, sighing, tapping their foot, wondering when you'll finally pick up the pen, make the call, or apply for the job. Avoidance doesn't just waste time, it wastes becoming. Third cost, resilience. Avoidance teaches your brain a script, "I can't handle this." Each skipped challenge reinforces that belief. Your tolerance for discomfort shrinks. Tasks that once looked small start to look like dragons. Sending an email feels like slaying Smaug. Booking a dentist appointment feels like storming Mordor. Your world becomes scarier, not because it is, but because you've trained yourself to flinch. And then comes the guilt spiral. This is the psychological jackpot no one wants to win. You know you're avoiding. You feel the weight of wasted time. That guilt spikes your anxiety, which makes you avoid more, desperate for relief. It's like digging yourself into a hole and then convincing yourself the way out is to keep digging. I knew someone who turned down social invites for months because they were busy rewatching a series. At first, it was funny. "Huh, you love The Office that much?" Then it became a pattern. Then it became a cage. By season 6, the show wasn't entertainment. It was a moat. A perfectly binge-watched wall keeping real life at bay. And here's the kicker. Hobbies aren't villains. They're neutral. They can be lifelines or they can be locks. The problem isn't in the knitting or the gaming or the Netflixing. The problem is when play slips quietly into prison and you don't even notice the bars going up around you. How to spot avoidance in disguise. So, how do you know? How do you tell if you're truly relaxing or just dodging like your brain's the star of an action movie? Here's the test. Test number 1, the timing rule. If the hobby always shows up right before a stressful task, that's avoidance. Notice how your sudden urge to bake banana bread only ever strikes the night before taxes are due? That's not culinary passion. That's fear wearing an apron. Real hobbies appear on their own. Avoidance hobbies wait for deadlines like predators. Test number 2, the aftertaste rule. If the hobby leaves you more anxious afterward instead of refreshed, that's avoidance. True rest feels like stretching out after a nap. Avoidance feels like waking up with a rock in your stomach because the thing you avoided is still looming. You get the crash. Guilt layered on top of anxiety, layered on top of, wow, I really didn't need to alphabetize my condiments tonight. Test number 3, the endless loop rule. If the hobby never seems to end, if there's always one more level, one more episode, one more tweak, that's avoidance. Real hobbies have natural stop points. You finish a run, you finish a puzzle, you finish a drawing. Avoidance hobbies stretch forever, like a road trip where the bathroom break is always just 10 more miles. And here's the sticky golden question, the one you can't wriggle out of. Does this hobby restore me, or does it just delay me? Write it on a sticky note. Tattoo it on your desk. Make it your phone background. Whisper it to yourself at 2 a.m. when you're knee-deep in reorganizing your bookshelf for the 3rd time this week. If the answer is restore, you're good. You've recharged, carry on. If the answer is delay, congratulations. You've just caught avoidance red-handed, wearing a fun costume. Psychologists call this awareness the meta moment. It's the instant you step outside the loop and notice it's a loop, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The game changes. Because the point isn't to kill your hobbies. The point is to spot when they've shape-shifted into shields. And once you know the difference, you can choose. Not out of fear, not out of habit, but out of honesty. And that's the moment you stop running in circles and start walking forward. Redirecting the energy? Here's the good news. Hobbies aren't the enemy. They're not plotting against you in a shadowy underground guild called the League of Procrastinators. They just need new jobs. Think of hobbies like golden retrievers. Left untrained, they'll chew your shoes, dig up your garden, and knock over the neighbor's kid. But with the right direction, they'll fetch, protect, and maybe even save you from drowning. It's not that the dog is bad, it just needs a purpose. So let's give your hobbies purpose. Step 1. Make them rewards, not shields. Instead of running to your hobby to escape, flip the script. Write 500 words, then you can grind a side quest. Send the scary email, then you can reorganize your bookshelves by color gradient. The hobby becomes a cherry on top, not the entire cake. And your brain gets trained to connect progress with pleasure. It's basically Pavlov, but instead of drooling at bells, you're drooling at the thought of logging into Stardew Valley after you finish your taxes. Step 2. Use them as warm-ups. Big projects staring you down? Nervous about an essay? Don't let the hobby replace the task. Let it prime the pump. Set a 20-minute timer. Write first, then reorganize your fonts. Or sketch for 10 minutes, then switch to that presentation. It's like stretching before a workout. You don't call it the workout itself, you call it warming up. Same muscles, lower stakes. Step 3. Swap passive avoidance for active engagement. Not all hobbies are equal when it comes to processing emotions. Netflix binges? Passive. They wash over you like waves. You might feel numb, but you don't feel better. Journaling, though, that's active. Calling a friend, taking a walk, hitting a punching bag, that's active. Active hobbies don't just distract, they metabolize the stress. They move it through you instead of letting it congeal like emotional leftovers in the back of your fridge. And here's the psychology behind it. Your brain craves comfort. That's not weakness, it's survival. Comfort lowers cortisol, lowers heart rate, makes you feel safe. But safety without progress turns into stagnation. So you've got to give your brain comfort with purpose. Think of it like alchemy. Instead of turning hobbies into shields, you turn them into fuel. Instead of letting them hide you, you let them guide you. Same activity, new intention. Suddenly, your Netflix watch list isn't a dungeon. It's a reward chest waiting at the end of your real-life quest. Bigger lesson. At the heart of all this, it's not about hobbies at all. It's about honesty. Avoidance is fear, dressed up in cozy clothes. It doesn't come at you with a sword and shield. It comes holding a paintbrush, or a Sudoku book, or a controller. It whispers, "I'm just helping you relax," while quietly pulling you away from the thing you most need to face. And here's the twist. Every hobby can be a playground or a hiding place. The difference isn't the hobby, it's the direction. What are you running toward, and what are you running from? If you're baking because you love creating, because it fills you with joy, because sharing cookies with your friends makes your heart expand, that's a playground. But if you're baking your third batch of sourdough this week because you're terrified of opening your resume, that's a hiding place. Same flour, different motive. Psychologists call this approach versus avoidance motivation. Approach is moving toward growth, values, joy. Avoidance is running from discomfort, fear, risk. Both look like movement, only one leads to freedom. And life won't stop being uncomfortable. It just won't. There will always be dragons, emails, heartbreaks, dentist appointments, awkward conversations, taxes. You can't wish them away. But the growth you crave, the version of you who's steadier, braver, freer, is usually waiting behind the thing you're dodging. So next time you catch yourself knee-deep in productive procrastination, pause. Ask yourself, am I running towards something real or just away from something scary? Because avoidance will shrink your world, honesty will expand it, and the only way out is through. Which hobby has been your secret hideout? Drop your favorite productive procrastination story in the comments. Smash that like button if your brain feels 40% more exposed, but 60% more self-aware. And hit subscribe if you're into ideas that stick, figures that sketch. Because hobbies don't just fill time, they sketch who you are. The only question is, are you drawing a map or drawing a curtain? Ready for your next system update? Tap here and keep playing smart.